The
It's been a
room
pleasure
erupted
working
in a
with you on this
tension so
initiative.
thick it
The
felt
feeling is
almost
mutual. We've
tangible,
made
like
significant
the air
progress
itself
together.
had frozen in disbelief. Cameras flashed, capturing every sharp intake of breath, every narrowing of eyes, every barely restrained hand gesture. At the center of it all, the villain stood, a smirk playing across their face, radiating arrogance that seemed to mock the very walls around them. The crowd shifted uneasily, whispers threading through the air like a rising tide, as if sensing the storm that was about to break. Across the stage, the hero remained calm, an island of composure in the eye of chaos. Their posture spoke of quiet resilience, of someone who had weathered storms far greater than the one looming now. Eyes scanning the room, every flicker of doubt in the villain's expression seemed magnified, contrasted against the hero's unwavering gaze. The tension was cinematic in its intensity. Every heartbeat felt amplified, every sound, from the soft rustle of papers to the collective gasp of onlookers, punctuating the mounting suspense. A single word, sharp and unyielding, cut through the air, igniting a spark that would ignite a nationwide conversation. The crowd leaned in, collectively holding its breath. The stage was set. But what happened next would leave the nation questioning everything. The tension that gripped the room was no accident. It was the culmination of years of political maneuvering, heated debates, and battles fought in courtrooms, town halls, and the endless scroll of social media. This was more than a clash of personalities. It was a collision of ideals, a fight over the soul of a nation. On one side, the villain had long wielded power with arrogance, dismissing voices that challenged their narrative, their record a tapestry of contradictions and self-interest. On the other, the hero carried the weight of history and heritage, a living testament to sacrifice, perseverance, and the unyielding pursuit of justice. Every detail mattered. The hero's story, rooted in immigrant struggle, community service, and personal sacrifice, resonated with millions who had themselves faced systemic barriers. The villain's smug confidence, by contrast, became a mirror for everything the audience rejected: corruption, entitlement, and a disregard for truth. This was not just a debate. It was a symbolic stand, a chance for dignity to rise over hubris, for integrity to pierce through arrogance. The room felt alive, almost electric, with every subtle cue magnifying the stakes. Every glance, every pause, every whispered murmur carried significance, a reminder that history often turns on moments like this. Social media had already begun to hum, anticipation building like a storm about to break. Memes, hashtags, and online chatter amplified the suspense, and viewers at home felt it in their bones. This was the kind of moment that could ripple across the nation, shaping conversations and challenging long-held assumptions. If you think this ends with words exchanged on a stage, think again. The real confrontation, the one that would sear itself into memory, was only just beginning. And just when the tension seemed unbearable, the villain's next move shocked everyone. The villain's rise had been anything but humble. From the beginning, every step of their career seemed carefully choreographed to project power, influence, and inevitability. Headlines chronicled a string of victories, each one celebrated with a sort of self-congratulation that left rivals seething and allies uneasy. But beneath the polished speeches and public smiles, cracks had begun to form. Small missteps, contradictions that rarely escaped scrutiny, but were there for those willing to see. Decisions once lauded as strategic revealed a streak of hubris, a belief that rules applied to everyone else, but never to them. Every encounter with the press, every committee meeting, every handshake carried an air of entitlement. The villain's words often promised progress, equality, or justice, yet actions betrayed a different story. Policies that favor the powerful, rhetoric that silenced dissent, and a talent for shifting blame when scrutiny turned uncomfortable. Those closest to the villain whispered of impatience, a need for constant validation, and an unshakable conviction that failure was impossible, merely a temporary inconvenience. These flaws, hidden behind charisma and carefully curated optics, built a persona that was as magnetic as it was dangerous. Yet the villain's confidence bordered on recklessness. Moments of arrogance, offhand remarks, dismissive gestures, a public snub here or there, began to accumulate like cracks in a dam. Observers who had long tolerated the villain's excesses started noticing patterns: overconfidence in debates, underestimation of opponents, and the subtle, growing dissonance between words and actions. It was a slow unraveling, imperceptible at first, yet inevitable in its trajectory. To the untrained eye, the villain remained untouchable, a force unassailable and destined for further triumph. But beneath that veneer of control, the seeds of vulnerability had already taken root. A storm was forming, shaped by the very arrogance and entitlement that had fueled the villain's ascent. History has a way of humbling those who believe themselves invincible, and whispers of past misdeeds hinted that the next act would not go unnoticed. But the villain didn't realize a storm was quietly gathering on the horizon. The hero's journey began far from the polished halls of power, in neighborhoods where opportunity was scarce, and every day was a lesson in perseverance. Born to parents who had left everything behind in search of safety and a better life, the hero grew up acutely aware of sacrifice: the long hours their family worked, the whispered worries about rent, the constant balancing of survival and ambition. From an early age, they learned that dignity was not granted, it was earned, and that courage often meant standing alone when everyone else turned away. School hallways became the first proving grounds. Teachers noticed a quiet determination, a refusal to be defined by circumstance. Friends saw someone who would lift others even when it cost them personally. Every setback, a failed exam, a lost opportunity, a door slammed shut, was met not with surrender, but with renewed effort, a recalibration that transformed failure into resilience. The hero's story was not one of instant triumph, but of incremental victories, built upon persistence, empathy, and a refusal to compromise values. As the hero grew older, the focus shifted outward. Community service became a calling, not a resume booster. They worked tirelessly in local shelters, schools, and civic organizations, championing causes that many overlooked. Each project reflected a deep understanding of the struggles faced by ordinary people: immigrants trying to navigate bureaucracy, families fighting for fair treatment, voices silenced by indifference. The hero learned to listen, to act decisively, and to carry the weight of responsibility with humility. These acts, small in isolation but profound in their cumulative impact, built a reputation rooted not in spectacle, but in authentic service. Yet even amidst this dedication, the hero faced moments of doubt and isolation. Friends and mentors warned that the path ahead would demand more than courage. It would demand unwavering moral clarity against opponents who played by no rules. Every challenge, every personal sacrifice sharpened the hero's resolve, preparing them for a confrontation that was not just political, but deeply symbolic. The audience watching at home could sense the weight of experience, the accumulation of lessons learned through hardship and perseverance. And now, as the moment approached, the stage set, the eyes of a nation watching, the villain poised in arrogance, the hero carried more than just words. They carried the history of struggle, the proof of resilience, and the promise of a transformative act that would leave the world breathless. And then the hero stepped onto the stage, carrying more than just words. The room was electric, every eye fixed on the stage where two forces of conviction faced off. The villain leaned into the podium, voice dripping with condescension, each word measured to belittle, to provoke, to assert dominance. Snide smiles flickered across their lips, punctuated by sharp gestures that drew murmurs from the crowd. Camera flashes caught the tightening of fists, the slight narrowing of eyes, the subtle shifts of posture that betrayed growing tension. Every sentence was a calculated blow, a test of endurance, a challenge to anyone who dared stand in opposition. The hero, by contrast, radiated calm. Every pause was deliberate, every glance steady, a quiet contrast to the villain's storm of theatrics. When the villain's rhetoric became biting, the hero responded not with retaliation, but with precision, countering each accusation with logic and moral clarity. The audience felt it viscerally. The tension in the air thickened, the collective breath held as the debate swung between chaos and composure. Whispers grew into audible gasps, side glances exchanged between onlookers, some leaning forward in anticipation, others recoiling at the villain's escalating hostility. Each rhetorical maneuver felt cinematic. The villain's arrogance became almost tangible, a weight pressing down on the room, yet it was matched by the hero's serene authority, a force that commanded respect without raising a voice. When the villain sneered at personal sacrifices the hero had endured, the room stiffened, waiting for the hero to falter. But the hero did not waver. Instead, they allowed the words to hang in the air, letting the audience absorb the contrast, the difference between hubris and integrity, entitlement and earned dignity. Every rising crescendo of hostility was mirrored by moments of silence, of subtle acknowledgement from the audience, a nod here, a quiet murmur of approval there, a palpable shift in the energy of the room. It was a battle fought not just with words, but with the weight of presence, with moral authority, and with the unspoken power of resilience. It seemed the villain had the upper hand, until a single line changed everything. For
It's been a pleasure working with you on this initiative.
Suspended
The feeling
in
is
time.
mutual. We've made
The villain's
significant progress
smirk
together.
lingered, confident, unshakable, as if the battle had already been won. Cameras whirred, lights glared, and the audience waited with bated breath, caught between anticipation and disbelief. Then the hero leaned slightly forward, eyes steady, voice measured, and the first words fell into the charged silence like a spark in dry tinder. "Let me be clear," the hero began, calm but deliberate, every syllable weighted with conviction. The crowd leaned in instinctively, drawn to the quiet authority that demanded attention without demanding applause. The hero recounted the villain's own words, their public missteps, and the consequences of choices made without consideration for those who had no voice. Pauses were deliberate, punctuating key points, allowing the gravity of each statement to sink deep into the audience's consciousness. Each revelation landed with precision, the kind of clarity that can only come from first-hand experience, careful observation, and unwavering moral certainty. The villain shifted subtly, a flicker of unease betraying the first crack in their carefully constructed armor. A hand tightened on the podium, eyes darting to notes that suddenly seemed insufficient. The hero's calm contrasts made every gesture of the villain appear exaggerated, desperate even, a dramatic testament to the growing imbalance of power. The audience sensed it, intuition sharpened by the tension of the moment, the knowledge that a turning point was unfolding before their eyes. Whispers spread like wildfire. The faint murmur of recognition rippled through the crowd as cameras captured every subtle betrayal of confidence. And then came the line that would echo far beyond the walls of this room, a single undeniable statement that crystallized the hero's argument, exposing the villain's contradictions in stark, unassailable terms. The crowd reacted in real time: gasps, rapid applause, murmured affirmations. Phones rose like a wave, capturing the moment, tweeting it, posting it, amplifying the impact in an instant. Social media had already begun to erupt before the hero had even finished speaking, with hashtags trending within minutes, and commentators replaying the decisive line, dissecting its implications, praising its brilliance. The villain's confidence crumbled visibly, lips pressed tightly, eyes flicking nervously from audience to opponent, hands gripping the podium like a lifeline. Every attempt to regain control fell flat. Each interruption was met with the hero's unwavering composure. The contrast was undeniable: arrogance versus integrity, theatrics versus truth, entitlement versus earned authority. Audience members shifted in their seats, leaning forward, nodding, and exchanging glances, as though acknowledging that history was unfolding in real time. Even the aides and advisors of the villain, once so confident, now whispered behind closed hands, their concern barely contained. The hero's words had pierced the veil of performance, revealing the raw vulnerability beneath. And yet the delivery was never triumphant in the brash sense. It was deliberate, elegant, precise, a demonstration of power rooted not in aggression, but in patience, preparation, and moral clarity. As the final point landed, the room erupted. Applause swelled like a tidal wave, cheers punctuated by shouts of agreement, and the subtle undercurrent of collective realization spread. This was more than a debate. It was a reckoning, a moment of public witnessing that would ripple through communities, households, and social feeds alike. The hero had not only countered the villain's assault, they had reshaped the narrative, asserting truth over bluster, courage over arrogance, and integrity over entitlement. Every eye followed the villain, now visibly rattled, as the audience collectively exhaled, the tension giving way to a recognition of victory, but only for a moment. Even as applause rang out, the sense of anticipation lingered. The hero had struck decisively, yet the echoes of this confrontation promised further reverberations, consequences that extended far beyond the walls of this room. The room was stunned, but the storm had only just begun. As the final words hung in the air, the room erupted into a mix of applause, murmurs, and stunned silence, each reaction feeding the other like sparks igniting a wildfire. Within seconds, social media ignited. Hashtags celebrating the hero's clarity trended nationwide. Memes appeared, juxtaposing the villain's faltering confidence with the hero's composed resolve. Clips of the decisive lines circulated endlessly, dissected by influencers, political commentators, and everyday viewers alike. The online community became a living pulse, a digital echo chamber amplifying every nuance of the confrontation. Journalists and pundits scrambled to contextualize the moment. Political talk shows dissected body language, debating strategy and moral authority, while late-night hosts replayed clips for millions of viewers. Celebrities, from actors to athletes, weighed in with posts praising courage and integrity, adding cultural validation to the political spectacle. Even politicians who had previously remained silent found themselves compelled to respond, some subtly endorsing the hero's perspective, others grappling with the undeniable shift in public sentiment. Every reaction fed into the narrative, creating a cascade of recognition, validation, and, increasingly, expectation. Communities that had long felt overlooked seized the moment as their own. Civic groups, immigrant networks, and social justice organizations shared clips and stories, celebrating representation, resilience, and dignity. The hero had transcended a single stage. They had become a symbol, an emblem of what determination and moral courage could achieve against overwhelming odds. Conversation sparked in households, workplaces, and classrooms, the echoes of the debate carrying far beyond the original event. And yet, even as likes, retweets, and comments surged, there was a palpable sense of anticipation, a collective recognition that this was just the beginning. Every new post, every viral clip hinted at further consequences, further confrontations, and a broader reckoning that the audience could feel creeping toward them. And if you think this moment has ended, wait until you see the fallout. Yet, amid all the chaos, a deeper truth emerged. In the aftermath, the hero's words lingered long after the applause faded. What had begun as a confrontation had transformed into a testament to values that transcend politics: dignity, justice, and the relentless pursuit of what is right. The hero reframed the clash not as a victory over an opponent, but as a triumph for principles that had been overlooked for too long. Every gesture, every measured word now seemed imbued with purpose, a reminder that true power lies not in intimidation, but in integrity. Audiences across the nation felt it, the quiet, unshakable force of someone who had faced adversity, opposition, and doubt, yet never compromised on moral clarity. Civic pride surged in communities that had long fought for recognition, and a sense of shared humanity emerged in spaces that had been divided by cynicism and fear. The hero's victory became collective, a mirror reflecting the courage, resilience, and dignity of all those who had ever struggled to be heard. Even the villain, though humbled, offered an inadvertent lesson. Arrogance can blind, entitlement can falter, and history has a way of correcting those who overestimate their own invincibility. The contrast between the two figures crystallized an enduring truth. The measure of a person is not in the victories they claim, but in the integrity they uphold when the stakes are highest. As the dust settled, the hero's presence radiated a cinematic resonance, a story unfolding in the minds of millions, one of perseverance rewarded, morality vindicated, and the power of calm conviction in the face of hostility. The moment became symbolic, a touchstone for reflection and inspiration, echoing beyond the confines of a single stage or debate. And as viewers across the nation absorbed the gravity of what had transpired, the sense of possibility swelled. Triumph was not defined by applause, but by the enduring values it reaffirmed: the courage to stand, the wisdom to act, and the humility to let justice speak for itself. And this is the legacy that will echo for generations. Stephen Colbert applauding Jasmine Crockett was more than a headline. It was a moment that captured the spirit of resilience, courage, and integrity in action. Her name, echoing across America, symbolizes the triumph of dignity over arrogance, of service over self-interest, and of steadfast principles over fleeting power. Every step she took on that stage reflected the struggles, sacrifices, and unwavering commitment that define true leadership, inspiring countless others to believe in their own potential. This is the story that reminds us courage is contagious, and the fight for justice is never in vain. Share this moment, join the conversation, and let it spark discussions in your communities, on social media, and among friends and family. Your voice matters, your engagement matters, and together we amplify the values that truly shape a nation. Subscribe, comment, and be part of the movement that celebrates integrity, resilience, and hope.